Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Q&Ray. Today I have Maura from Lewiston, Maine. Maura, tell me a little about yourself.
I'm a CrossFitter. I've been doing CrossFit for a little over a year at CrossFit 196 in Lewiston. I also got my CrossFit Level 1 trainer in September.
Cool.
So I have spent kind of my life and career really teaching and helping others in social work specifically, and being a therapist in different areas of that industry. And coaching has always appealed to me. I've never coached before. I've been an athlete, high school, college, all that stuff, played a bunch of different sports, but I've never coached, and it's always intrigued me. When I started CrossFit, I really loved it. And I thought in my brain, oh, maybe sometime in the future I could coach, but I never imagined that I would step into that or start exploring that as quickly as I did. And I did it because my coach, Rachel Nutting, asked me to. And I thought, well, I've had this sort of thought in my brain. I totally don't feel ready, but I'm going to say yes and kind of see where it goes.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Rachel told me a little bit about you on our one-on-one calls. She and I meet once a month and just do on individualized coaching stuff. And she mentioned you, and I was like, that is the perfect person to coach, because you're a social worker, you love people, you take care of people. That is the number one prerequisite that I look for in people who I'm considering to hire as a coach. At my gym, there are three things that I looked for. I looked for someone with a service mindset. I looked for someone who was teachable, and thirdly, I was looking for people who are humble. I never really put a whole lot of value in hiring people just because they looked like they were good coaches or because they were great athletes. I wanted people who cared. And one thing that gets really cool is that quick YouTube video you shared with me. You do that for your mom, so you send her workouts and stuff.
Yeah, I've started to do that kind of here and there. I'm coaching my mom at the box. She's a member at CrossFit 196, and this week I've had to be home. And I have not been at the box. So I started making some videos for my mom because she's not there this week either. Just kind of doing some adaptations for her, like just showing her basic warm up. She's 78. And doing, when she's not at the box, she's got like nothing at home. She's in her living room. So it's good practice for me. I don't love being on video, so it's good for me to do that and practice teaching and coaching, just learning the material through speaking it aloud and doing the movements for somebody else. So, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you right now, it doesn't look like you hate being on video. You're actually pretty natural at it. I've seen people who are like, I've worked with people who are so brilliant in person, but are so dry on video, and they look like they're gonna die, and it's like they're very natural at it. So kudos like that for you jumping right in, because that's huge. Like a lot of people, I had a conversation with one of the girls that I coach. She was telling me about this guy who wants to start a business, and the dude is way more qualified than I am, and he wants to do kind of similar to what I'm doing. And I'm like, what are you doing? Just go and do it already. Like, just figure it out as you go. Like,
Yeah.
This business that I've been doing, mentoring coaches, has been evolving since I started in April 2017. It's evolved like 5 times. And the point of it is just to jump in and do and not be afraid of failing, because failing is where you learn, you know? There's too many people who get stuck with like that analysis paralysis and never do anything about what they want to do, and then they never go anywhere. So that's kudos to you for jumping in straight for head first and just going for it, because that's super cool.
Yeah, it was a lot anxiety provoking. I remember like the opportunity for the L1 was happening in early September, and because of COVID, we didn't know. They hadn't published anything further. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I should just do it now, because I don't know when the next time will be. And we had like 2 weeks. There were 2 other women that went with me from the box.
Oh, cool.
So I was like, all right, just rip off the Band-Aid.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So,
well, the video that you sent me just came through. Do you want to start with the video, or do you want to start with questions?
we can start with the video. if you want, if it's ready. Sure.
Let's do that. So here we go. Is this the one?
That's the one.
Awesome. And here we go. So you mentioned you had a right knee injury, right?
Actually, I've never injured my knee. It's just that my right knee, at least I've been corrected on it, that my right knee tends to go in when I'm squatting.
Okay. Okay, I want you to look side to side here. And do you notice a difference side to side in where your feet are placed?
Looking at my feet,
Yeah.
it looks like my left foot is, well, they don't look even.
Yeah, right.
My left foot is slightly behind the other one, right?
It is. Now look when you go to the bottom of the squat. What do you notice now? Where is most of your weight shifted to? It's kind of subtle, but
It's to the left, right?
to the left, you're loading your left side.
Yeah.
Interesting. You never injured that right knee?
I have never injured, no, in all of like my athletic endeavors, I've never injured it. I will tell you, it bothers me when I do lunges, box jumps. It
Okay.
doesn't bother me when I'm squatting, but when I do the more loading or high impact, I guess,
Yeah.
like it'll bother me.
Does it hurt more when you do reverse lunges or forward lunges? Or does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Okay. And
Yeah.
when do you feel the discomfort? Where in the knee do you feel the discomfort?
It's usually, trying to think, it's been a little bit since it's happened, but it's usually like to sometimes the inside or outside of the knee, and occasionally it will lock temporarily in place. Like that's happened in the middle of a workout, and I have to like literally kick my foot forward to unlock it.
Wow, that's weird.
Yeah.
So,
And it's usually after lunges. Typically, if there's lunges involved in a warm up or workout, that's when it happens.
okay, interesting. All right, let's keep watching. Right away, I know why your front squats are not so awesome.
Okay.
Here we go. Do you see what
Yeah.
I'm?
Yeah, my chest is way forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about your previous sports or athletic history. What did you do as a kid?
So I, as a child, well, as a young person, I ran cross country in high school. I played softball. I was a basketball player. I played softball, basketball, and water polo in college. That's about it. I ski, downhill ski. Started that as a teenager, do that as an adult.
Okay.
That's kind of the basic ones.
Okay. Okay. Cool. You've done the moneymaker squats, I assume, right?
Yep.
Okay. How does that help your squat? Does that help you sit more upright?
It definitely does.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to just take a wider stance. I'm not doing that in this video. Like I did that on purpose. I really tried to keep a shoulder width stance. But my inclination is to want to step my feet wider when I squat, and I feel like then I can get more upright.
Good. That's what I would give you too. So the shoulder width stance is a guideline. Like everything we teach
Okay.
at level 1 is, it's literally just somewhere to start. You know, for you, I might bring your feet out wider so you can bring your chest up more upright, so your hips have room to move forward. Because
Okay.
right now it looks like, let's see, if this is your bottom, yeah, that's actually your bottom. So right now it's not really an issue as much. If let's say you went lower, sometimes the calves get in the way, and that's why it makes more sense to move the feet out because your hamstrings hit your calves.
Calves.
Even,
Okay.
But even for you, I would try squatting wider just to see how it feels. If you can bring your butt more towards the front.
Right.
The only time that I would say that the feet are too wide is when you can't keep your knees and toes pointing the same direction.
Okay.
That's a limiting factor. So I
Yeah.
can squat super wide and my knees and toes will still track, and that's still a good squat, right?
Okay.
The reason why we emphasize the knee out thing in the level 1 is that we don't want the knee to be pointing in, the feet pointing this way, because anatomically that's just not good for the knee. It's not meant to bend that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I like to highlight with people is that if you actually use your hamstrings for bending the knee and the toe will point in the same direction. Like if you pick up your leg like this and you bring your heel to your butt, does your knee and your toe point in the same direction?
Yeah.
It's just that's just the way it works.
Yeah.
I'm creating tension with a hamstring, which then creates the position I'm looking for. A lot of the times when you see the knees diving in, it's because there's no tension on the hamstring.
Hmm.
So we create tension on the hamstring. We can create a contraction at the hamstring. I'm struggling with the word tension right now because
Okay.
tension can be created two ways. You can create tension by contracting the muscle, right? Or you can create tension by stretching it.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like when you go
Mm-hmm.
to a point, like your muscle's like, I don't like that, so now it's gonna get tight and not let you go any further. But here the muscle's tight because I'm contracting it. So I would say a better way to describe it is I want a contraction at the hamstring, which will then create the position that we're looking for. So
Okay.
when your knee dives in, what I'm going to hypothesize is that you don't have enough contraction on the hamstring, or it's just not on. So my favorite way of teaching the squat is: are you able to stand up?
Yep.
I feel like I do this in every single episode of Q&Ray. Is bring your knee to your chest and then slightly out, so kind of like the way you would a squat. Now feel your hamstring. You feel how it's soft.
Yep.
Now bring your heel to your butt. Now grab your hamstring again. Do you feel a difference?
Yeah. It's tight. It's contracted.
Contracted. So that motion of bringing your knee up and then bending your knee with your hamstring, that's the same motion we're trying to create in the squat. So when I teach people to squat, I say pull the floor up, and now you're actually going down. The role of the hamstring and the glute as you descend into the squat is to stabilize the things, right? But if you don't actually contract the musculature to stabilize the things, your body's going to look for stabilization somewhere. And oftentimes, if a muscle is weak, it has to shorten to find the connection, right? So make a bicep like this. You feel your muscle. You feel it's on.
Yep.
Now straighten it. Can you do the same thing?
No.
Not as much, right?
Not as much. Yeah.
So a long muscle it's gonna be harder to connect with. A shorter muscle is gonna be easier to connect with. When the knees dive in, it's basically saying, okay, we weren't able to find a connection with the knees out where we wanted it to be. So we're gonna dive into where, like for example here, make your bicep and then feel it. Now tap it, tap, tap, tap. Now let it go. And then when you stop and you can't feel your bicep anymore, stop. It's right around here, right?
Yeah.
I can still contract my bicep way out here. I can still contract it here. So that's my mobility of the bicep. So some people, when you watch people squat, you ever see people's butt tuck under?
Yes.
That's because their glute ran out of room, and so now something else has to pick up the slack. The glute. So basically, here's another example. Like stand up and squeeze your butt cheeks together. You can feel your butt cheeks on, right?
Yep.
Now bend over a little bit and try to squeeze your butt cheeks.
Yeah, it's hard.
Can't find it. Now bend down. Can't find it, right?
No.
So we've established that the mobility of your glute is not very big either.
Okay.
You see that a lot with people when they squat is like if they can't find the glute, they're gonna do one of two things. They're gonna arch their back like this and go to the low back, or they're gonna turtle like this, and because they're got to go down the front of the abs here. So that tells me a lot about when I see things start to collapse. It means okay, the mobility of that certain muscle that's supposed to be doing the job there has run out, so another muscle has to compensate to complete the task.
Okay.
Make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah. I guess I've never done that. It's interesting. Stand up and see like when I can't feel my glutes engage.
Let me tell you something. I've been coaching since 2011, and I didn't figure that out until 2 years ago. So
that's incredible. No, not that. It's just, I feel like that's incredible that you could, like, that test that you can
Yeah.
do. That's really neat.
Yeah, it's very simple. I mean, it's simple science. Like a muscle is stronger when it's shorter. Like you see people all the time, you know how they're turtly like this? They're turtly here because the muscle here is weak, so it has to shorten to find its tension.
Ah. Hmm.
You see it all the time when people try to front rack position, they're like this. It's because
Hmm.
they're not strong. They don't have the mobility to be here. Mobility is really more of the muscle's ability to create a contraction at a given range of motion, right? Your flexibility is how far you can go, like just raw. Like if someone would grab my arm, like I go all the way over here,
Pull it.
but right now I don't have that. Like right now, my shoulder's kind of messed up, so I'm here. If I were to work on it, kind of activate, I could probably get a little further. It's a little bit better, but not arching my back. But you get the idea. Like the flexibility is your raw range of motion. Your mobility is your range of motion with control. That's an important distinction. Some people call them the same thing, but in the way I like to describe it is that way because it's a little more specific.
Yeah.
Okay, so going back to your squat, really good at going on rabbit trails here. So, on the squat here, the first thing I notice is that your butt's really far behind you. So
Okay.
if you had a bar on your shoulders, look, where's the bar relative to your feet now?
Way far forward.
Way far forward. So that's why your front squat is struggling. So if we go here, I think you mentioned front squat. Here we go. So you see even now. So now we see it, right? Your butt's back here, your shoulders are here, and the bar is now like 6 inches in front of your feet.
Yep.
So the solution
Wow.
to fixing your front squat is not elbows up. Your elbows are up. Because you see I have this 90-degree angle here.
Yep.
Your elbows are as high as they're going to go without choking you, you know?
Okay.
If someone tries to tell you elbows up, they're wrong. What really needs to happen is chest needs to go up. Now,
Okay.
there's two ways you can go chest up. You can arch your back, which is what some people do to create that really upright chest. But now you got all that load on the back. What I would do with you is let's try bring your feet a little bit wider to see if you can get your hips more forward. And also let's work on those hip flexors.
Yeah.
That's the big thing there. So the moneymaker squats are a great exercise to play around with. Let me share that in case anyone's watching this and I'm like, what the heck do you mean by moneymaker squats? So Rachel's been working with me for a long time. Rachel is Maura's coach. She's been working with me for a long time, and so she pretty much does whatever I say. She's like one of the greatest students I have. But the moneymaker squat, which as soon as this video posts, it'll be a week after my last video, which I actually go over in that video too. But this is the moneymaker squat for anyone who's paying attention and has not seen before. Basically, what you do is you hold a plate out in front of you, and you use it as a counterbalance to squat down. And then one way that you can challenge this is you can start to pull the plate towards your face or have someone take it away from you. And the goal is to not fall over. Watch this guy. So hands a plate, his chest is up. Takes the plate, now he leans forward. You see that? So this
the guy second, that one. Okay.
Yeah. So he's upright, takes it. Now see how he starts to lean forward and loses it?
Oh, yep.
The plate gives him something to feel. It gives his hip flexor something to grab onto. So one thing I like to do is have someone start with like a 10-pound plate and then slowly work on going less weight and until you don't need any weight anymore. Another way you can do this is if you have a 10-pound plate and hold it like this, and then you start to pull it towards your face like this. And the idea is you don't want to do this and then lean forward. People do it all the time. Like if you tell people bring the plate to your chest, they're gonna do this and lean forward. I'm like, no, that's not the point. You need to be able to do this and not move. Like nothing should change in your position, you know. But then they're like this. It's like no, that's not it. But this is one of the few instances where I'll tell people, hey, yeah, it's okay. You do need more weight to feel it. And the goal is to work until you don't need that plate anymore.
Okay.
Cool. So that's your homework for the squat is to do the moneymaker every single day and progressively bring the plate in. And maybe use a mirror or video yourself and just watch yourself to see if you lose your position.
Okay.
Okay, so play around with that.
Awesdo
Cool. Do you have what other questions do you have?
I guess, well, I had a few, but just related to being a brand new coach. I guess I'm just wondering what you would tell someone who's like literally just has done some shadowing, has done a couple of classes. Think it's overwhelming at times to, you know, when you have like even just 5 or 6 people in a class, but and obviously everybody's different and their needs are different, of trying to figure out where to start sometimes. And Rachel's been a really good guide, and talked about low hanging fruit and keeping things simple. I have a mind that tends to, I think, overcomplicate things. And I use a lot of words when I talk. I'm working on that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what would you say to someone or me as a newer coach around that?
I want to say that it does sound like you're already on the right track. So continue to shadow. Watch as many coaches as you can. I always like to share. I used to drive an hour every week, every Wednesday, to go watch Coach Bergner coach, and I would just sit there and stare. And I go watch the person he's watching, go look at him, listen to see what he says, and if I didn't see that, I would watch for it again. And that way, I was developing my eye, and developing a system too on how to watch people is important.
Okay.
I mentioned this in the last episode last week, that I start with the feet. I always start with the feet, and then I work my way up. And then if I'm teaching a progression or something, let's say I'm teaching the push press, for example, you know, the first progression step of the push press is a dip and hold, right? Because and then we need to know what is the purpose of that step. The purpose of the dip and hold is to see if they know how to dip and not drop their chest or go back this way. So when you're teaching a progression step, you should also know what associated fault is going to happen with that. So, hey everyone, I want you to dip and hold. And then what are you looking for? You're looking to see if someone's doing this, or someone is doing this, or someone's caving in, you know, like start having like a small checklist of things that can go wrong for that step.
Okay.
That way because if you don't have a plan, you're not going to be able to see anything, right? And if you can't see anything, you can't fix anything. Like, too many people go in and it's like no clue. They're like looking for all the things that could go wrong, and then you don't see anything. But if I'm specific, like literally when I was watching you move, I first looked at your feet.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, that looks okay. And then I start to see, oh, she's shifting over to the side. So I work my way up. There's a system. Like, you don't just like, okay, what do I see? No, like, once you get better, you're going to be able to do that a little bit more. But when you're new, or let's say you're watching someone who looks pretty good and you're like, something's kind of off, but I'm not really sure what's off. So you start with the feet and you work your way up and you work there it is. So that's the number one thing. I would continue watching other coaches coach and try to develop your eye that way. Develop a system for watching people, something that you can remember and follow. Every movement that you teach, you should break into little steps, right? And every step is on purpose. And every step has a fault you're going to look for. And so that's going to help you on the teaching side of things. Okay. There's a lot of aspects of coaching. If you remember from the level 1, I think is day 2, where we talk about there's teaching, seeing, correcting, presence and attitude, group management, and demonstration, right? The teaching aspect, that's the first part I just mentioned, right? And then being able to have a system to teach is also going to feed your ability to see. And then when you can see, you can correct. As far as the demonstration, that's going to be another thing you need to continue to work on. One thing that you can start practicing now is, in addition to learning how to do the movements correctly, learn how to do them incorrectly. Like, that contrast. Like, one of my favorite things to do is when I squat, I'll show people do this. I don't know if you can see that, but they arch their back going up like that. And it's like, that's one of the most common faults you see people do. And they're like, you're really good at demoing that. I'm like, I know, because I have like 90 million people who do this. I need to show them what they're doing so that they can see what they're doing wrong. I had an intern once. Oh gosh. I had an intern once who demoed things incorrectly all the time, but didn't realize he was demoing incorrectly. And so he had no hope of showing it incorrectly on purpose, because he was showing incorrectly not on purpose.
Without awareness, yeah.
But you get the idea. Like, a good demo is gonna be able to show you wrong and good at the same, gonna go back and forth and show contrast. And then as far as the group management and the presence and attitude, those go together, right? One thing I always encourage coaches to do is, and it's very simple, is find out what your people do for a living.
Okay.
Like at the gym that I work at, we have a lot of cops. We have one lady who was a forensic scientist, basically a CSI. Um, One day, she doesn't seem like she was in the greatest mood, and she wasn't like rude or anything, but she just kind of seemed like not there. And if you're insecure, like I remember when I was a brand new coach, I would take people's um the way that they acted around me, I kind of take it personally. But then I remember what she did for a living. She's a forensic scientist. She probably had some weird scene that she worked on. She's a lot of stress, and I'm not gonna take that on me. That's not my bad. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna make sure that she has a good day. It helps so
Yeah.
much to know what people do for a living because it helps you
Mhm.
relate to them. And it's such an easy thing to do. It's like the first thing I ask after I ask them if they have any injuries or anything like that. Do you have any injuries? Have you ever broken any bones? Do you have any of these things? What are your previous stuff? And then what do you do for a living? If they sit in the chair all day long, you're probably gonna have some problems with your psoas. Probably not gonna squat very great. If they have stress, yeah. If you sit at a desk all day long, you're not gonna have hip flexors because your hip flexors are off all the time, right?
Yeah.
If you have someone who sits in a car, like I said, we got a lot of cops who wear armor all day long, sitting in a patrol car all the time. So Big Anthony, his big thing is that he has the same challenge you do. He can't get his hips forward because he's stuck in a chair all day long. So I help him with that, and knowing that about him also helps. Knowing what your people do for work will help you a lot in helping them because that's where they spend most of their day. It gives you a lot of context. You know,
Yeah.
people always ask me questions, and my answer almost always is it depends. And it depends on the context. Like, I'm not going to give this person this cue and this person this cue unless I know what all the underlying variables are. So that's one simple thing that you can do as far as like your presence and attitude. Know what your people do I mean, you're a social worker, so you know about empathy, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not worried about that with you. That's a great asset you already have. But yeah, get to know what they do for a living. Um, Figure out their why. Why are they there? One thing that took me a really long time to learn, and I hope that I help you with this right now, is remember that not everyone cares how the sausage is made. Not
Yeah.
everyone, not everyone cares about moving good.
Yeah.
When I owned my gym, I could be the a-hole and say, "You don't want to move good? Get out. You don't need to be here." I could be a jerk all I want. But the benefit that I gained from working at other gyms that were not mine was that I didn't have the liberty to make someone quit because I didn't like them. Now I have been forced to work harder to figure out, okay, why are they here, and how can I make sure they have the best time here? This one lady don't care how to snatch, don't care how to clean. No, she just wants to sweat. Okay, well, fine. Let me keep her safe.
Yeah.
Especially if you're the kind of person that is really likes rules and likes things to be done the right way. I always tell people that right relationships are more important than being right. I would much rather not
Yeah.
be that person because they got so upset with me that I was, your knees are caving in and this and that and the other and blah blah blah, and then they don't want to work with me anymore. Then I lose that opportunity to impact their life. But if I keep them
Yeah.
safe and just say, okay, you can have what you want, like, and then maybe later they'll open up the door for me to coach them.
Yeah.
I always tell people I have a volume knob on my coaching here. Okay, you can turn me way up if you like because I have the capacity to do that. But if you don't care, you can turn me way down, and I'm here for you, so it doesn't really matter. You tell me where you want the knob, and everyone in the room is gonna be different.
That's a great metaphor. I love that.
Yeah, I had that
Yeah.
conversation last week with one of the ladies because she does this big shifty thing on her squat, and I go, "Do you care to fix it?" She's like, "Not really." Like I'm like, "Okay, I kind of figured that. That's cool. Like if you ever want to, just let me know." But that's good for me to know, so I won't bug the crap out of you trying to fix you all the time when you don't want it.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Is just ask questions.
Yeah.
What would you like? Yeah.
What would you like? The thing is too is like as long as they're staying safe, I think is a big thing. If they're
Yeah.
doing something absolutely egregious, like this is one of my favorite stories. Okay, I was working at a gym in San Diego, and this guy, he was wearing a belt for like 2 weeks, and I'm like, okay, and I'm really not a fan of wearing belts, especially because a lot of times people don't know how to wear a belt correctly. They just wear it. And so one day I walk up to him, I go, "Hey, like, tell me about the belt, man." Like, because we were doing dumbbell snatches. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that kind of put it over the edge for me. I'm like, if you're wearing a belt for dumbbell snatches, you're doing something wrong. And so I go, hey man, like, tell me about the belt. He's like, yeah, I'm wearing it as a prophylactic. And I'm like, oh, what? I know what a prophylactic is. I'm just playing around, right? I was, but he's like, it's just a preventative thing. And I'm like, okay, but don't you think it'd be more important to learn how to brace? Because that belt's not going to help you if you're rounding your back on everything. And I knew this about him because I did his fundamentals, right? And he just was always rounding his back, had no idea what was going on in here. And on top of that, he lost a lot of weight. So now his body's different from when he first came.
Mm.
So he's still developing that body awareness. And and I was like, well, don't you think that would be good for you to just kind of learn how to brace, and that way you don't need to have the belt all the time? Like you're not gonna have your belt in real life. And he's like, well, it just makes me feel more comfortable. I was like, okay, man, no big deal. So I turn around, and as I'm walking away, I go, by the way, it's upside down.
Oh.
Because he had one of those belts that had like, it was one of those Nike belts that had like the little thing that goes in down here. So
Oh.
it was kind of like, it was kind of swooped up like this. And he had the part that goes towards your butt upside down.
Oh.
Even the logo was backwards, upside down.
Oh.
So I walk away, I go, by the way, it's upside down. I just left.
Oh.
And I turned around like 2 minutes later, and he took it off.
Aw.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes I'm like, okay, this enough's enough. Like this is just not safe. I need to tell
Yeah.
the guy. But I mean, he knew I was joking around, and we were fine about it later. But you see what I mean? It's like I'll let you have what you want, but if you're gonna kill yourself, I'm gonna say something. And
Yeah, I mean, like safety feels like the bottom line. That's like first priority is be safe.
yes, but you will. I had one guy actually one time. He actually pushed back on me, and I go, no, I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm like, okay, man, but just so we had this conversation, I did tell you that this is unsafe and that I would prefer for you to do something else, but you're basically like refusing doctors. What do you call it? Like where when you like decide that you don't want to take the doctor's advice, that whatever, that kind of thing.
Yeah, AMA against medical advice.
Yeah, that's it. AMA. So I'm like, so we're agreeing that I talked to you about this, so it won't come back to me later that I was negligent.
Mhm.
And you're like, yes. I'm like, all right, cool. Have at it, man. So I've actually had those conversations before too. But the big thing is that they need to know that you care. And the funny thing was that this guy, like we had it one day. We had a little thing one day where we were doing a workout where it was like every 2 minutes for 8 minutes we're gonna do a 200-meter row, which should take you less than a minute, like a minute or less, right? And then it was like 15 overhead squats with 115 pounds, 115, which is doable. You're supposed to be able to do 10 overhead squats in about 20 seconds, and the whole thing was you're supposed to have at least 30 seconds rest at the end. That was my big thing. And so everyone, for the most part, they like listened to me and said, I'm like, here, this is the pace we need to go. You need to be going this fast. And everyone's like, I can't do that with 115. I'm like, I know, it's too heavy. So most of the guys, I had them doing a PVC pipe overhead with their hands like this because it locks them in external rotation. PVC pipe, and they felt that was hard enough. And so most of these guys are fine. They're like, okay, whatever, like I'll do it this way. Even these big burly dudes are like, okay, Ray, I get it. You need to go light, do this correctly. Well, this one dude, he got really mad about that. So same guy I was telling you about, the AMA guy. And he gets really upset about it. He does it anyway, and then on the way out of the gym, he stops in the owner's office and yells at him, blah, 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 super angry that I wouldn't let him lift weight. And then, like, I hear about this, and the owner's like, no, you did the right thing. It's fine. And I'm like, yeah, but it still bothers me. So I reached out to him. I texted him, and I go, hey, man, what happened today? And he's like, I'm like, you know that I'm just looking out for you, right? Because you broke your wrist doing a heavy clean a while back. I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't protecting you. He's like, yeah, well, I really, really want to work out my type 2 fibers and blah, 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 and this, that. I'm like, type 2 fibers? What? Like, and like, the thing, and then I remembered that he had told me 2 days before that he was going to have 14-hour days at work, and he was really stressed out. Oh, dude, would you have been happy if I let you front squat heavy instead of overhead squat? He's like, yeah, man, I just want to lift heavy. And I was like, well, then just tell me next time. That's fine. He's like, you would let me do that? I'm like, yeah, it's your workout. if you can't go overhead right now in a workout like that where it's meant to be fast, but you really, really want to lift heavy weight that day, then just tell me. I'm not the workout police. Like, I'm okay. Like, you need to blow off steam, blow off some steam. Just communicate with me. Don't go throwing a tantrum to the gym owner. Like, and we had that conversation, and then after that, I did whatever I wanted after that. He was like my best student after that moment. Why?
Yeah.
Because he realized that I cared. I wasn't trying to be a jerk about this thing. I was just like, dude, we'll work on your overhead squat all you like whenever you want to after class, but right now, the purpose of this workout is to go fast. If
Hmm.
you can't do that, then let's modify it a little bit. Like, don't let your ego get in the way. Let's lift heavy and have fun and high five later. We can't high five right now because of COVID, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like after that, the dude did whatever I said, and I'm like, hey, I want you to do this. Like, okay, cool. And I got his buy-in because I showed him I cared. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
let me know. I'm not like here to like make your day terrible. I'm here to help you. I'm here to keep you safe. And even though I've left San Diego, he still texts me every once in a while.
Mm.
So that's the kind of thing that we're supposed to be doing as coaching. And you know this from social work. It's like we're connecting with people, we're helping people.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anywho, I have time for one more question if you got one, and then I have to run and coach.
Okay. Um, let's see. What? I guess any resources you recommend to a new coach, like in terms of reading or websites or video?
Okay. Shameless plug. I have a coaches mentoring group.
Awesome.
We meet 5 times a week. Mondays we talk about movement. So uh, moving into 2021, we're gonna every week we're gonna focus on one movement a week. So we'll do squats, and then we'll come back to it the following month because you can never get enough squats. There's always so many details of squats. We Mondays we talk about movement. So movement Monday we talk about a squat, and we go into the really nitty gritty nerdy stuff about it, like the stuff that we don't have time to teach you in the level one, but things that you should know. Like the level
Right.
one is literally just the tip of the iceberg. I actually get in trouble sometimes because I tell too much because I want to give so much, but already the level one's so thick as it is. Like, there's no way any single person can go to a level one and retain everything. I've taught 50 of them, and I still learn something every time. So that's kind of the thing. Like to continue, like the purpose of my group is to have a continuing relationship with someone who's helping develop you as a coach, and so that's why we exist. So Mondays we talk about movement. Tuesdays are the days you can come on and vent about your coworkers, your boss. So if Rachel's being a jerk, you can vent over there,
Aw.
right? Um, Thursdays we do video analysis. So it's everyone uploads video, and we'll sit there and I go, all right, we have a group of 20 people in the group. All right, Joe, what do you see? Go, and then we help each other see the stuff. And then Fridays, I call them Freedom Fridays, where you can come in with any questions that you want. If you want us to look at your programming, we'll look at your programming. If you want us to look at you teaching a whiteboard session, we'll watch you teach a whiteboard session. If you want us to watch you teach a movement, we'll do that. Or if you have questions, kind of like what we did today, it's kind of a free for all question day. We meet 5 times a week, and if you can't make the meetings, we also record them all. We have 3 years of archive.
Oh, wow.
3 years of archive videos from 2017 covering all kinds of things like how to throw a party at your gym, how to build a staff, how to do this, how to do that. Anything that shows up in the gym environment, we've talked about it, and we have all of that stuff. And it's a good time, and it's a really good environment. We have that. I also do small group stuff where like every 6 weeks I do a new topic that's like 4 to 5 people maximum. So you have a lot less you have a lot more opportunity to share and to ask questions and things like that. Sometimes our large group calls can be 20 plus people, and it's hard to talk. Unless you like to be the fly on the wall and just listen, that's a good environment. But sometimes people want to have more interaction. So I do that. And I also do one-on-one stuff. Um,
Okay.
Other things that are not me, I really am into the strong fit stuff right now. So teaching a lot about how to create tension, how to help people with anxiety and depression. Um,
Hmm.
those are really huge.
Oh,
And as a social worker, I'm sure that jives with you. We talk a lot
yeah.
about that stuff within our calls too, because I'm part of that. I'm part of that their mentoring program. So I get coached by those guys, and I come back and share it with my people too. Um, there's a lot of stuff. Actually, I kind of just keep to my bubble right now. There's a lot of other people I used to follow before, and now I don't really quite agree with what they're doing. So I'm kind of biased. So for me, I have my group, and then StrongFit has some stuff. If you have time, watch their podcast. They have really great stuff.
Okay.
On YouTube, just type StrongFit
Strong fit.
podcast. Lots of good stuff there. I mean, lots of rabbit holes to dive down if you like to get the nitty gritty nerdy stuff.
I do.
So yeah, if you ever have questions, feel free to text me. You have my phone number now.
Great.
And don't worry about time zones. I have people in every time zone possible, so don't worry if you feel like, oh, I'm 3 hours behind you. No big deal. So,
Okay.
cool. Thanks for hanging out with me.
Wow. Yeah, this was great, Ray. I so appreciate it.
Yeah, congratulations on your level 1. I'm really excited for you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I'm glad I fell into the CrossFit rabbit hole.
Yeah. All right, cool. Anytime you have a question, let me know.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.